Welcome to the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel. Today I'm joined by HAALAND to show you guys the very best Game Week 4 Wildcard team according to Fantasy Football Hub's AI. We're going to get into that immediately, and then afterwards we're going to have a look at how the Fantasy Football Hub's AI team, which is a team based solely on the AI's model, the predictions, the recommended transfers, got on last week before looking ahead to next week. But yeah, Holly, a lot of people are looking at a Game Week 4 wildcard, and looking at the AI, the best wildcard according to AI, do you think it's the thing to do this week to have a look at it and see where it's potentially looking with the players with the highest predicted points over the next few game weeks?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'd maybe use it at the start of the process of the wildcard and at the end to help you kind of get some ideas of different kind of teams to target, how to structure the squad, and then at the end to sense check any disparity and why you think that disparity is better than what the optimal AI might say. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay, you know what? Let's just show the people straight away. No sort of waiting around. Here's the team. This is it. The best Game Week 4 wildcard team according to Fantasy Football Hub. If you don't know what this is, then every week Fantasy Football Hub has the best Game Week 4 wildcard team, best Game Week 5 wildcard team. When we get to Game Week 6, it will also have the best team according to the data, the predicted points, etc. Obviously, it takes every player into consideration. There are a few notable omissions in this team who we'll get onto. But let's break this down sort of player by player and discuss why certain players are in this team and certain players are not. Starting with the goalkeeper. So it's Brighton's Verbruggen.
Yeah, and he still tops the goalkeeper rankings in terms of those priced at 4.5 million and under. I think he's a great pick going forward because we know now that he's number one at Brighton, and Brighton have got this swing of good fixtures as well. So yeah, nice pick there to get us started in the defence.
Is there any other 4.5 close in terms of predicted points? I mean, like I've had Henderson for a while. Now he's sort of, the fixtures look a bit good all of a sudden now. Like the next two look decent.
Yeah, Henderson's made it into the top 10 finally, 17.7 predicted points. Verbruggen, 18.1 predicted points. We've also got Flecken and Muric who are all there as well. And they're kind of keeping pace with those priced higher. Obviously, Raya's still out in front, 21.6 predicted points, but the AI optimal team has decided to take a step back from those expensive picks and spend those funds elsewhere.
Yeah, I think that's the important point there. Verbruggen is not predicted to score the most points out of any goalkeeper, but for budget reasons, that is what the AI has decided to go with. All right, on to the defense now, and it's a very, very strong back line. A lot of money invested here. Trent and Robertson double up, looks super strong, and then Gvardiol as well. And then on the bench, it's actually pretty weak. Like it's as weak as you can go. But in Greaves and Harwood-Bellis now, we have two players that are nailed, right? So maybe that's why the AI has thought we can go a little bit cheaper on the bench and put, how much is that? 19 million into the starting 11 in defence.
Exactly. We've been lucky this season in the fact that those 4 million starting defenders from the promoted teams are there to provide those steady 2 points from the bench if needed. But yeah, that double up is still on. Liverpool haven't conceded a goal so far this season. It is a bit of a throwback going with both fullbacks, Robertson and Trent. And the thing that keeps surprising me whenever I look at these AI predictions is that Robertson's top and Trent is second, but Robertson has had 2 shots on target this season to Trent's 1 and 1 big chance registered on goal. So even though Trent has that greater assist threat, you can see that in his numbers in terms of chances created and expected assists. Robertson's higher goal threat slightly that we've seen this season, even though it's a small sample size, does put him ahead on the AI predictions. And then you've got Gvardiol in there, who's one of the most sold players in FPL this week, been unlucky in terms of a couple of sloppy goals as standard conceded by Manchester City. Rico Lewis starting on the opposite flank has kind of killed his attacking threat, but that could turn on its head at any point. So AI predictions again put Gvardiol third behind Robertson and Trent, and the AI wildcard team has backed that.
Yeah. Interestingly, I suppose no Arsenal defence in here. I think it's just those next two fixtures, right? If when we look at a Game Week 6 wildcard, I'd expect at least one Arsenal defender. Who knows? I mean, the three selected are super strong. But yeah, you mentioned Lewis, who is performing really well right now. Is it just the lack of security of minutes going forward that is the reason why potentially he's not in there over a Gvardiol?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Lewis is actually the best defender to go for, priced under 5 million, but
Oh wow.
Vardiol significantly ahead in their head to head. And yeah, minutes is an issue, but AI is beginning to see the value in Lewis now, but not enough to push him ahead of Vardiol. In terms of other cheap options, priced at 5 million or below, we've got Pau Torres leading the Aston Villa options ahead, and sorry, we've got
Sorry.
Lucas Dean leading the way in terms of the Aston Villa assets from Pau Torres. We've got Konate in there as well, bringing the value to the Liverpool defence if he's nailed. We've also got Lewis Dunk in there and the Crystal Palace wing-backs as well. So there's options all over in those cheap price brackets. But yeah, it's all-out attack from the defence here with
Yeah.
these three.
Yeah, you're right. It just is a massive throwback. I don't think we've really had this for the past couple of years. Maybe it's a little bit to do with Trent, especially last season, not really reaching his full value. I would say, at 8 million or whatever. But it just looks so strong. And if Guardiola does at some point move back into the role he was playing last year, who knows if Lewis and Walker will rotate, whatever. We don't really know. And I think that as you say, that is the reason why Lewis isn't in this team. Then that is a super strong defense. That is probably the one thing. I don't know what you think about this, but I think that's probably the one sort of aspect as in where a human can potentially get a little bit of a jump start on the AI. The AI has to be a little bit cautious with expected minutes. I suppose it works both ways, right? If you expect Lewis to stay in the team, you can go for him and be aggressive with that pick where there is a lot of upside and you're making a big saving on a Gvardiol. But AI doesn't really work like that. It seems to be a little bit more cautious with expected minutes, or at least expected minutes are a big deal for it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I'm looking at potentially going from Vardiol to Lewis in my own team
Okay.
this week, but I've still got the wild cards in the back pocket if in 2 game weeks' time I've decided that punt hasn't paid off. Whereas when you're approaching the wild card, you kind of want to go for that tried and trusted approach rather than going with the punts, because the wild card is the opportunity to fix the punts rather than possibly make those punts.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, let's move on to the midfield now. It's very, very strong. And interestingly, looking at the predicted points over the next 5 game weeks, these are the top 4, right? Salah, Eze, Saka, Palmer, just bang, right there.
Yeah, and Salah, the highest predicted player in the game over the next 5 game weeks, and that is significant. We've seen in FPL, he's been keeping pace with Haaland, 3 double-digit hauls to start the season. And, AI's backed him from the start, continuing to back him. Saka's still in there is a little bit of a surprise to me because, there are managers selling him, and maybe the AI hasn't caught up with the fact that, Arsenal are going to be weaker in their next game because they've got Declan Rice suspended. It now looks like Odegaard's going to be out for a period of time as well. We as humans see that as hurting Saka, whereas there isn't a significant change in the predicted data for injuries around the squad for a specific player. Yeah, Eze in there, though, is remarkable. Like, the fact that he's managing to keep up with these premium midfielders. I feel like we're having the same conversation every week. But like the fact that he scored and just scooped up 3 bonus points casually in game week 3 just shows what he can do. And then Palmer, the yellow flag, I don't think we need to worry about that. He's been spotted in training. So I think he's a shoo-in for game week 4. He's been playing plenty of minutes in the Premier League, hasn't he? I think he's missed less than 10 minutes with early substitutions so far this season, but he has complained of a bit of a groin issue. But yeah, feels like an international break injury in inverted brackets. And it's one of those that, we expect him to come straight back in, and hopefully we get a little bit more of that sharpness from him that we saw last season very soon.
Yeah. I don't think there's really too much to say about these picks. They're the top 4 for a reason. I think I agree with you. The main thing is just the fact that Eze is keeping pace in terms of the stats and predicted points with these guys is absolutely insane. Yeah, Palmer's got a flag there, which is probably why his points are a little bit lower than Eze's. But even I don't know, maybe not. I mean, Eze is what across the next 5 game weeks, he's predicted to score 1.4 points fewer than Saka. It's insane. And I think the reason Saka is still in there, despite these next 2, or at least City away being tough, and then Tottenham away being a little bit tougher, obviously without a couple of key players potentially, is those next 3 after that, which is just are so good. But yeah, I can't really fault that midfield at all. The only thing is potentially if somebody wanted to have a certain striker in their team and couldn't afford all these premiums in midfield, just talk about potential budget options. Maybe around Eze's price. I'm thinking of the likes of Mbermo. Maybe it's a little bit too early to go on him, but he has some great fixtures from game week 6, for example.
Yeah, so we see Mbermo pop up in the top 10 midfielders in 10th place for this week. We've also got Jota up to 8th place now as well, and a player that's not really been cemented into the AI predictions, but certainly a little bit of form and minute security does help him there. In terms of budget picks, Semenyo is the best priced under 7 million, and then Caro Matoma. We've also got Harvey Barnes, Morgan Rogers, Bernardo Silva, all vying for contention in that bracket. And we also see Bruno Fernandes, Phil Foden, and Leon Bailey all drop out of the top 10 with kind of lack of minutes, injury, Fernandes, a lack of kind of clinical finishing. So they're the significant movers and shakers from what we saw last time we spoke.
It's good to see Bruno dropping out, I will say, as someone who has just not been on him all season, and people that have had him are happy to keep him, whatever. I'm not sure I agree with that. Like he has been good for underlying data. I completely concede that, but I feel like it comes to a point where underlying data can only do so much for a player, and maybe when that's even getting a little bit lower, like maybe it is, then yeah, seeing him drop out I think does make sense. I do think there are better options than him at that similar prices and even less. Okay, so that is it for the midfield. Guys, before we move on to the forwards and talk about the lack of Haaland, which is the main point of this wildcard, I think it's very brave once again, but even despite back-to-back hat-tricks, he's not in there. It's worth mentioning that this team is constantly evolving and changing with new data and new news that we obviously get every single day throughout this international break over the course of the rest of the season. So if you do want to keep up to date with the best wildcard team, not necessarily just for this week, but for game week 5, maybe game week 6 as well, and a lot of us are looking to potentially play a wildcard, make sure you are a member of Fantasy Football Hub. It's not too late to sign up. It's still 50% off at the time of recording as well. So link down below, go and sign up, and you can have a look at this whenever you want. Let's move on then to the forwards. We've got to start with Haaland. He's not in here, which is so brave, but I just respect it. Like the AI's not had him in its own team the whole season. It's not in the wildcard team. It's crazy.
Yeah, but that AI team is actually doing better than us both. And every week, Haaland delivers a hat trick. And I feel for the AI team. I'm like, oh no, it's going to be a huge red arrow. And then Salah pops up and delivers another double-digit haul and proves that, for 2.5 million less, like a significant saving, he can keep pace. So yeah, Salah predicted to score 0.5 points more than Haaland over the next 5 game weeks. And it does feel scary looking at this team thinking Vardiol is the only City player. Well, we've proven over the first 3 game weeks that you don't have to own Haaland to have had a good start to the season. So it's gone with Isak, João Pedro and Chris Wood. João Pedro, the most bought player this week. Isak, the most sold. Chris Wood, a player that probably 2 weeks ago I'd have said, game week 3 is probably your last time to own him and then you need to be moving him on. It now looks increasingly likely that he is the undisputed number 1 at Forest. Haven't brought in a significant striker in the window. Awoniyi not really part of the first team setup at the moment in terms of getting a start. And Chris Wood's continuing to deliver. His underlying numbers are looking better. He's actually 3rd among forwards for predicted points over the next 5 game weeks behind Haaland and Isak. And did you see the comments from Isak over the international break?
Yeah. They're great. What was it? He was asked, should should a manager captain you in the next fixture? And then I love like his sort of dryness, saying no, don't captain me, captain Haaland. I want to punish the people that have sold me by scoring 2 goals. I think that's what he said, wasn't it?
Yeah. So
Brilliant.
that bodes well for Isak owners, and it's a bit of a warning for anyone that was looking to sell. Chris Wood edges out Havertz in this side, by the way. 0.1 predicted points between them. Again, you fear for Havertz with Rice missing and Odegaard missing. We could see him in that dreaded reverse out of position in a defensive midfield role rather than the number 9 where we know and love him. Elsewhere on the prediction is Nicholas Jackson, who I kind of glance over every week. He's still there and he's still delivering FPL points. You're the Chelsea fan, so I'd like to hear your kind of take there on him.
You're right. Like, I do the same. I glance over him. I don't know. It's just, you can kind of hang your hat on other options. Like, I love the fact that Isak is still in there. And I think, obviously Jackson's at a relatively similar price point. I don't think there's any competition between those two. Despite the fact that Isak is the most sold player this week, I still think he's a great pick. And even City at home in that third game, you'd think, oh, that's a tough fixture that is going to really affect his predicted points. But it really doesn't that much. It's a sort of game that he would just score in or get a penalty. He's very, very consistent. Despite the fact that he's had a relatively slow start to the season, if you look at total points, he's still doing completely fine, across forwards. I'm very happy with my team personally, that the fact that I was able to keep him this week, I think is big. And Jackson, I don't know, maybe at some point I will consider him as an option. I just don't at the moment. I'm not really entirely sure why not either. I think similar to you, just the lack of consistency there, or just maybe the fact that he is relatively erratic still just doesn't lend itself to a FPL option. I kind of get sort of Darwin vibes from an FPL perspective, where you expect him to, or by watching him, you think he'd do better than he actually does. Not necessarily a bad thing if he's getting loads of chances, but yeah, I'm kind of with you. I'm not too sure about him, to be honest.
Yeah, burnt too many times in the
Maybe
past.
That's it.
And
yeah,
a lack of clinical finishing doesn't help convince us. We also see that Watkins has slumped down the list. He's now in 7th place. Mateta down as well to 10th. Watkins, obviously, it wasn't really until game week 3 press conferences that Unai Emery actually came clean with the fact that he has been nursing a little issue since the Euros. Obviously, he was let off international duty with England as well.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we see him playing close to 90 minutes soon, and we see him starting to take those chances that we're used to seeing him take. But I think in the meantime, he's justifying the sales at the moment.
Okay. Yeah, so there we go. And then just a quick word on the bench. Already sort of mentioned the fact that these guys are all super solid. But I think the main thing is just no 8th attacker, no extra, no playable player there. So Wood, for example, plays Liverpool away. Is that sort of a reasonable route to go down, would you suggest? I mean, a lot of people do talk about having a rotating 8th attacker, but clearly the AI has said we're literally making the bench as cheap as we can possibly go.
Yeah, I can't blame the AI there. It's the way that I like to play the game as well. And you look at someone like Chris Wood, he's the kind of player that can cause defences problems just kind of with his aerial threat. And, when you're travelling away from home, a team like Forest will kind of look to capitalise on any sniff of a set play situation. So, yeah, I think that's absolutely fine.
Okay. All right, then. So that is it for the AI team. Again, it's one of those where I'm not sure if I could do it. The lack of Haaland is scary. But again, massive respect. And obviously, as I say most weeks, FOMO doesn't exist if you are a robot. Maybe that's the advantage right there. If any of you guys are brave enough to go for it, let us know in the comments down below. I don't know if I could do it. Holly, could you do it? Are you going to go without Haaland a wild card?
No, absolutely not.
That's the thing. Despite looking at all this, right, and being big advocates of the AI, it's still like so challenging to do. I don't know. There's a clear method in the madness. Let's talk about the AI team now, which, once again, as we've said, doesn't have Haaland, has never had Haaland, doesn't look like getting Haaland anytime soon. I don't know. Maybe it will. We'll have a look at the recommended transfers. But another really, really good week. As you mentioned earlier, it's ahead of both of us. I think we're having pretty good starts to the season. I don't know about you, Holly, but I'm very happy with where I am right now. I'll definitely take it. But yeah, a great week for the AI.
Yeah, I mean, 84 points, considering it had no Haaland, to
Yeah.
have a game week rank in the top 1 million. Like a lot of the teams in and around it, you would imagine probably have both Salah and Haaland. And then if you've captained one of them, that's 51 points there in itself. And I mean, the attack, there was 5 out of the front 7 returned. That having Havertz and Saka has paid off once again as they continue to combine for points. And we kept the faith with Eze and Isak, rolled the free transfer. So we've now got 3 free transfers for this week, which is the
Oof.
first time for many of us. Yeah, and yeah, to get those returns from Eze and Isak with the bonus points scooping up, like that's another return in itself there.
Mm.
I mean, the defense disappointed. Trent, the only return out of the defense, but I guess the red card hindered Gabriel, and you know, Edison just conceded again. But the team's looking pretty solid going forward. Really, you can't like argue too much with them. I'm pleased, really pleased with how it's doing.
I mean, it's a rank of 720k at this point with no transfers used. It's pretty insane. Got to be honest with that. I mean, we know the AI is good, and I'm not just saying this for the sake of saying it, but that genuinely is very impressive to not have Haaland and be at that rank and be very, very solid. And now, importantly, have, as you said, those 3 transfers banked. Let's just look at the team for next week and discuss what potentially could be done. Again, like the team looks super strong. You wouldn't need to necessarily make a transfer. I don't know. We'll have to have a look at what the AI is recommending, but it looks great.
Yeah, we've kind of reached a little bit of a crossroads, and I think it's important to think about chip strategy in terms of the wild card, because you can input into the recommended transfers when you would like to play the first wild card and see if that impacts any potential moves. It doesn't for us. There are 2 players in the 11 that haven't delivered anything for us so far, and they form the recommended transfers for this week.
Okay.
So Pickford to Martinez, there's a discrepancy of 2.6 points between them over the next 5 game weeks. And the AI does like that move, regardless of potentially playing wildcard in game week 6 or not.
Okay.
And the other move is Mooney's out to João Pedro, who is the most bought player this week, as I've already mentioned. So I think that move makes complete sense. That the alternative transfer is just to do Mooney's to João Pedro, and that feels quite obvious given that Mooney's is having that high shot volume but not finding the target, whereas João Pedro's been very clinical, and Brighton certainly got the edge on the fixtures going forward as well. He's a 90-minute man. He's on penalties as well.
Okay. Interesting. They look like, solid moves. I don't see many people going for Martinez in goal, but that's what the AI has suggested, with obviously the money made from going Muniz to João Pedro. Now, as someone that's already done Muniz to João Pedro, I'm happy with that. If it's backed by the AI, then I'm delighted with that. And that was also a move that was recommended to me by Fantasy Football Hub's AI for my team. But yeah, so now let's just tell the viewers what happens next, because obviously we've not made a transfer yet. Are you gonna lock those in?
So the AI team will make its transfers probably about 4 o'clock on Friday, once all the information from the managers' press conferences have filtered through. It's a significant week for the press conferences, given the international duty that we've seen from players. Hopefully not too many players arriving back late. The fixtures did tend to wrap up on Tuesday evening. So yeah, I'll go back on and look at the recommended transfers 4 o'clock on Friday. And then, of course, I'll make the transfers and then update the article on the Fantasy Football Hub website for members as well to check out after that.
So interestingly, not going early, because, we've seen a lot of people go early for price changes. I mean, I myself did that this week. I made 3 transfers on was it last Sunday night? So, week and a half ago. Pretty risky, but I was going to get priced out of my moves. But as we can see on screen, these are the recommendations, and they don't require you to move early. I think as well, you're getting all the information, aren't you, by waiting until Friday, and then making solid decisions. Yeah, interesting moves. I like them. Very sensible, but I don't think many people would be thinking to spend a transfer perhaps on Pickford to Martinez. But as you said, over the next couple of game weeks, there is a big discrepancy in points. Do you think that transfer is worth making?
I think with the wild card in mind, potentially not. I've had a little play around with the custom transfers as well on site, because the AI is starting to consider what you can do with 3 transfers. That was quite an interesting one. So with 3 transfers, it did recommend that you could, if you wanted to, sell Arsenal players, sell Gabriel for Robertson, sell Havertz for João Pedro, and then move Diogo Jota to Kevin De Bruyne as well, which was kind of a bit of an out there one. That would be to kind of really capitalise on the next couple of game weeks before playing the wild card. So yeah, definitely if you've got like a chip strategy in mind, have a look and play about with the custom transfers as well to see if there's something like kind of like a middle ground that you're happy with. But yeah, this is why we do the transfers on a Friday evening, because obviously we're feeding the robot as much information as possible. And that's when we've got that full view in terms of what the AI can take into account.
Yeah. Even doing this live now, it's showing slightly different transfers because I've not inputted the wildcard in game week 6, but it is updating, as you say, with constant news. And yeah, I mean, for example, that Arsenal news that will potentially have an effect when the minutes of extra players are reduced. Who knows? It might change something. But yeah, it's interesting to keep monitoring it. And guys, as always, we're going to be here every single week, no matter what, showing how the AI team does. Once again, if you didn't know this, where did it come? Top 70k last year, top 1% of managers.
Yeah.
Expecting big things this year. It's had a good start. Still got all the transfers. And if you do want to see what it ends up doing, then as Holly said, go on the website and check out the article later on Friday. But yeah, for now, Holly, I think that's going to do it. Guys, as always, if you want your own recommended transfers, then sign up. Simple. I've said it hundreds of times, but it's still worth doing. We're so early in the season. If you're now looking at these recommendations and you think that other people in your mini leagues are probably getting these recommendations and you don't want to fall behind, you don't have to do them, but it's good to know about them. I don't know about you, Holly, but there will not be a game week this season where I will not at least check my recommended transfers. I might not do them, but you have to check them, right? Don't you?
Yeah. Like I said at the start, if you look at the beginning of the game week and at the end of the game week, just to sense check, if nothing else, then it's going to steer you in the right direction and certainly put you off making any rash decisions as well.
Yeah. Okay, so there we go. Holly, thank you very much. Very, very informative. Good stuff, guys. If you are on a gameweek4 wildcard, let me know in the comments down below how different your potential wildcard in your mind is to the team that we've just shown, and whether what you've just seen has potentially influenced you to change a couple of players or not. I'd be interested to see what you think. Holly, thank you very much as always. We will see you next week to see how the AI team has done. And yeah, catch you guys on the next one.